Hello everyone and welcome back to Panik Peak. Let me know where you are listening from in the world by leaving a comment, and if you like the episode, please like and subscribe. Now, let's get cozy, and let's begin. They say love is blind. That when you finally find the one, nothing else matters. You ignore the red flags, brush aside the small inconsistencies, because you want it to be real. That's how it was with Ethan. For months, we talked. Every night, his messages lit up my screen, his voice became the last thing I heard before falling asleep. He was kind, funny, thoughtful, everything I had ever wanted. He remembered the little things. How I took my coffee. My favorite childhood book. The way I hated the sound of ice scraping against metal. He made me feel seen. So when he asked me to meet him for Valentine's dinner, I didn't hesitate. I should have. Because standing outside the restaurant that night, my heart pounding with excitement, I received a message that turned my blood to ice. Whatever you do, don't go inside. That's not me. A gust of cold wind whipped through the empty street as I stared at my phone. My heart thudded, a strange mix of confusion and dread curling in my stomach. I glanced up at the restaurant. Through the large, warmly lit window, I spotted him. Dark hair. Sharp jawline. The same confident smile from his photos. He was sitting at a small table in the corner, a glass of wine already in front of him. He was watching the door. Waiting. For me. My fingers hovered over my phone as my mind raced. This had to be a joke. Some weird test. Maybe he was nervous, playing a prank. But something about the message, the urgency of it. I swallowed hard and typed back. What do you mean? The three dots appeared. Stopped. Appeared again. I turned, scanning the street. The dim glow of streetlights cast long shadows, but I saw no one. I was alone. Another message popped up. I don't have time to explain. But that's not me. Please. Leave. Now. I sucked in a sharp breath. I looked back through the window. The man at the table was no longer sitting. He was standing. And he was staring directly at me. A slow smile stretched across his face. My body screamed at me to move, to leave, but my legs wouldn't listen. My phone buzzed again, and with shaking hands, I read the next message. He's not texting you. I am. I need you to listen. Run. Now. The door to the restaurant creaked open. I didn't wait. I turned and bolted down the street, my heels clicking against the pavement. Behind me, I heard hurried footsteps. Heavy. Fast. He's following me. My breath came in ragged gasps as I weaved through the empty streets. My mind raced, where could I go? I needed people, some were crowded. My heart pounded in my ears as I scanned the storefronts. A gas station flickered in the distance. Bright. Safe. My phone buzzed again. Keep going. Don't look back. Get to a crowded place. I ran harder, my legs burning. The footsteps behind me grew louder. Closer. Then, nothing. Silence. I risked a glance over my shoulder. No one. The street was empty. But the fear in my chest didn't fade. It only deepened. I slowed, gasping for air, and stepped under the bright fluorescent lights of the gas station. A bored cashier glanced up from behind the counter. A single customer loitered by the refrigerators. The normalcy of it felt disorienting. I pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking. "Are you safe?" I typed frantically. "Who are you?" A pause. Then, "Ethan. The real one." A cold dread curled around my ribs. I felt sick. I stared at the message, my mind spinning. Then who was at the restaurant? The cashier's voice jolted me back. "Miss, you okay?" I opened my mouth, hesitating. I had no idea what to say. Then, I felt it. A presence. I turned toward the glass doors. A figure stood just outside the glow of the streetlights. Watching me. Smiling. The same smile I had seen through the restaurant window. My stomach lurched. My phone vibrated in my hands. I forced my eyes away from the figure and read the message. "He won't stop now." A chill crawled up my spine as I forced myself to move. I stepped back from the door, my breathing uneven. "Hey," I whispered to the cashier. "Can I stay here for a bit?" The guy looked up from his phone. Sure." I risked another glance outside. The man was gone. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my breath. Think. My phone buzzed again. "Don't go home. He knows where you live." I felt my stomach drop. "How?" Another message. "I think he's been watching you longer than you realize." My knees nearly buckled. I felt exposed, violated. My mind scrambled for an answer, for something that made sense. This had to be a trick, a cruel joke. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I typed back, "What does he want?" The response came almost instantly. "You." A fresh wave of terror gripped me. The automatic doors of the gas station slid open. I spun around. No one was there. But the cold air that drifted inside felt wrong. Like something had just slipped through. The cashier frowned. "Weird. Thought I heard the bell." My phone buzzed one last time. "He's inside." The lights flickered. I wasn't alone. And then, from somewhere behind me, a voice whispered, so close to my ear that I felt the breath on my skin. "You shouldn't have run." A cold breath tickled the back of my neck. My body froze. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. Every muscle locked in place as the whisper echoed in my ears. "You shouldn't have run." The gas station lights flickered again, plunging the store into a momentary strobe of darkness and light. The cashier muttered something, tapping the register like it was just a power glitch. The customer near the refrigerators hadn't moved. But something was wrong. I turned my head slowly. The man near the refrigerators, he wasn't looking at drinks anymore. He was looking at me. His head tilted slightly, his lips curled into that same unnatural smile I had seen at the restaurant. The exact same smile. My breath hitched. My fingers dug into my phone, desperate for something, anything. I wanted to call 911, to scream, but my voice felt stolen. The lights flickered again. And in that brief flash of darkness, the smiling man moved. Closer. No footsteps. No sound. Just closer. The store lights snapped back to full brightness. The man was now standing right at the end of the aisle. My legs finally unlocked. I stumbled back toward the counter, shaking. I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. The cashier gave me a weird look. "Miss, you okay?" I pointed a trembling finger toward the man in the aisle. But he was gone. The store was empty except for me, the cashier, and my own shuddering breaths. I spun, frantically scanning the space. He was right there. A slow vibration rattled in my palm. My phone. I looked down at the screen. "It doesn't matter where you run. I'll always find you." I gasped. My hands felt numb. A second message came through. "See you soon." And then, his profile disappeared. Ethan's account. Gone. Like he had never existed. I stood there, my whole body trembling, knowing deep in my bones that this wasn't over. That it would never be over. Because wherever I went, however far I ran, he was already waiting. Smiling. Watching. And next time, I might not get away. It's supposed to be a fun distraction, just another dating app. You swipe through faces, each one a brief glimpse into someone's life, and then you swipe again, moving on. It's mindless. No pressure. But that's when it happens. You match with someone who seems eerily familiar. You think maybe it's a trick of the light, or perhaps someone you've met in passing. You scroll through their profile, and the sinking feeling begins. You know this person. You know them. But how? Then it hits you. It's your ex. The one who died last year. Your heart stops. Your fingers freeze. You can feel the weight of their gaze through the phone screen, like they're right there, watching you, just waiting for you to realize it. And then, a new message pops up. You stare at it, your breath caught in your throat. Miss me, ***. My mind races as I sit there, eyes glued to the phone, my pulse pounding in my ears. There's no way this could be happening. This has to be some sick prank, some twisted coincidence. I rub my eyes, willing the image in front of me to disappear, but it doesn't. It's still there. Eli. His face stares back at me, just as I remember it. The slightly crooked nose, the dark eyes that always held a hint of mischief, the rough stubble on his chin. His profile looks like it was taken just after we met, fresh, hopeful, like he was still alive. But that's impossible. He's dead. A shiver runs down my spine, and I instinctively glance around the room. It's quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. I try to tell myself it's just a glitch, just a mistake, but I can't shake the feeling that something is very wrong. I scroll down his profile, barely able to breathe. The photos. The memories. All of them. There's one of us at the lake, smiling under the sun. Another of him laughing with his friends, his arms around their shoulders, carefree, alive. The dates listed under the photos are strange, years that don't quite add up, like he was caught in a moment, frozen in time. I'm starting to feel like I'm losing touch with reality, as if I'm trapped in a bad dream that I can't escape from. My fingers shake as I reach out and tap the message notification. I almost don't want to look at it. The words hang there, like they're taunting me. I can almost hear his voice in my head, soft and teasing, asking the same thing he used to ask when he'd pull me close, a grin playing on his lips. ***, miss me, ***. I swallow hard. What do I even say to this? My head feels like it's going to explode. I type, my fingers numb, each letter feeling heavier than the last. Who is this? What do you want? I hit send, but almost immediately regret it. What if it's not really him? What if it's someone pretending, someone who knows exactly how to push my buttons? But my phone vibrates, and my screen lights up with a new message. Asterisk asterisk, it's me. Don't you recognize me? Asterisk asterisk. I stare at the words. My pulse quickens. This isn't possible. He's supposed to be gone. I try to call out for help, but my throat is dry. No one's here. No one can hear me. I'm alone with this thing that somehow looks like him, feels like him, but isn't. I want to close the app, shut my phone off, pretend I never saw this. But my thumb hovers over the screen, paralyzed. My heart races as I force myself to tap out another message. Please, stop. This isn't funny. I immediately regret those words. The silence that follows feels worse than any response could have been. The seconds tick by, slow and agonizing. I can't breathe. I need to leave, but my legs won't move. The phone vibrates again. Asterisk asterisk, why would I stop? You always loved it when I did this, asterisk asterisk. The words are cold. Too cold. They hit me like a punch in the gut. The memory floods back, and I'm suddenly reminded of the way he used to watch me. How he would say things that felt just a little too intimate, too specific, like he knew exactly what I needed to hear. It wasn't just love. It was something deeper, something more unsettling. I shake my head, trying to clear the thoughts. There's no way this is real. This can't be real. Then the room goes cold. Not a normal cold, but a deep, unnatural chill that cuts through to my bones. I feel it first in my fingers, then my toes, until my whole body is trembling. It's as though the air around me has thickened, pressing in, suffocating me. I glance at my window. The curtains are drawn, but the faint light from the street lamp outside flickers through the gaps. I catch movement. A shadow. At first, I think it's just my imagination, but then it shifts, growing longer, like someone standing just beyond the glass. My breath catches in my throat, and I can feel my heart racing. I turn back to the phone, desperate for some sign that this is all just a sick joke. But the screen doesn't show the conversation anymore. It's different now. The photo that was on his profile is no longer there, replaced with a new one. It's a picture of me. Taken from outside my window. Just like he used to do when we were together. The message changes, the text shifting like it's being typed out in real time. Asterisk asterisk, I'm still here, asterisk asterisk. I gasp, my fingers trembling as I drop the phone. It clatters to the floor, but the screen remains on, glowing with that one haunting message. A noise. A soft scraping sound comes from the direction of the window. My eyes dart toward it, but I can't move. I can't breathe. My chest feels tight, like I'm suffocating. The shadows outside the window grow longer, the shape becoming clearer, more defined. My body aches to run, but I can't. I can only stare, transfixed, as the figure outside the window slowly presses its face to the glass. It's him. Eli. And that smirk. That damn smirk that haunted me in life, now twisted, even more unnerving in death. Asterisk asterisk, miss me, asterisk asterisk, he whispers again, his voice just a breath away from my ear. I try to scream, but the sound catches in my throat, choking me. I want to move. To run. But I can't. I'm paralyzed. And in the darkness, I hear the unmistakable sound of a door creaking open behind me. I don't know how much time has passed. It could be seconds, minutes, or hours. The world feels like it's slipping away, and all I can focus on is the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming closer. I turn around, expecting to see him, expecting the nightmare to be real. But the door is empty. There's nothing there. For a moment, my heart lurches in my chest, thinking maybe I was imagining everything. Maybe it was just the stress, the loneliness, the grief. I take a step toward the door, reaching for the light switch, hoping to see everything in a new light. But then I hear it. The voice. Soft, right behind me, like a whisper that curls into my ear. Asterisk asterisk I never left, asterisk asterisk. I spin around. The room is empty. The door is still ajar. The window is still dark, the figure long gone. But the phone. The phone is glowing again, lying face up on the floor. I pick it up, barely able to breathe. The screen is cracked, the message blinking in red. Asterisk asterisk you can't run from me, asterisk asterisk. And beneath it, a new picture. It's me. Standing by the window. Watching. Waiting. I should have known better than to trust a blind date. But after months of online conversations with no spark, Adam's message was different. His profile was sincere, his smile genuine, and his words seemed to leap off the screen with an energy I hadn't felt in a long time. He told me he had something special planned, a quiet, hidden restaurant he'd been to once before. No name, he said. Just the kind of place you'll never forget. It was alluring. I was curious, intrigued by his promise of exclusivity. He assured me it would be a night to remember. So, despite the growing doubts whispering in the back of my mind, I agreed. The night of the date, I chose my outfit carefully, a simple dress, nothing too flashy, but enough to feel confident. I checked my reflection one last time, hoping this would be the beginning of something new. Maybe even something exciting. The restaurant, though, was nothing like I'd imagined. I arrived at the location, tucked in between two narrow alleyways in a forgotten part of the city, the kind of place you'd pass without ever noticing. The street was empty, dark, save for a single, flickering streetlight above. The building itself was a small, brick structure, nondescript and almost hidden in the shadows. The sign, if you could call it that, was little more than a faint neon glow, flickering erratically. There were no windows, no name, just the dim, eerie light casting a pale glow onto the cracked sidewalk. I hesitated for a moment, my instincts telling me to turn around. Something felt off, like this place had been waiting for me. But then Adam's text popped up on my phone. I'm already here. Don't be shy. I sighed, brushing aside the creeping sense of unease, and stepped forward, pushing open the door. It creaked as I entered, the sound echoing in the still night air. Inside, the atmosphere was immediately thick, heavy. Dimly lit chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting long shadows that seemed to move just out of the corner of my eye. The air smelled of something, old. Musky. A little too sweet. Welcome, a soft voice greeted me, and I turned to see a pale woman standing by the door. Her smile was almost too perfect, her eyes cold, calculating. Your table's ready. Adam was already sitting at the table in the corner, his back turned toward me as if he were waiting. He didn't look up as I approached, but I could feel his presence like a weight pressing down on me. I noticed how still the room was. No hum of chatter, no clinking of silverware. Just silence. It was a strange kind of quiet that made my skin crawl. The place wasn't empty, though. There were other diners scattered around, couples, mostly, sitting at their tables, their eyes locked forward, unmoving. Their faces were blank, too perfect, too still. I sat down across from Adam, trying to shake off the chill creeping down my spine. "This place is unique," I managed to say, my voice a little shakier than I intended. Adam smiled that same perfect smile. "I told you. It's special." He leaned forward, his eyes glinting in the dim light. "You'll see." The waitress returned, placing a glass of water in front of me, her hands unnaturally smooth, like she hadn't touched a dish or wiped a table in years. As she left, I noticed something strange about the glass. The water inside reflected nothing, not even the candlelight flickering beside it. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. Was it a trick of the light? I glanced at Adam's watch, but it, too, didn't reflect anything. I think something's wrong with the glass," I said, my voice a little too loud, my eyes still on the strange, lifeless reflection. Adam didn't seem concerned. "It's part of the atmosphere," he said with a casual smile. "You'll get used to it." I stared at him for a moment, wondering if he was being serious. The longer I looked, the more my unease grew. His eyes didn't reflect, either. There was something wrong with the room. I shifted in my seat, trying to shake off the growing discomfort, but the more I looked around, the more unsettling everything became. The other diners didn't move. Their faces were like masks, locked in some strange, unblinking stare. They didn't talk. Didn't even seem to breathe. They were just there. The longer I stayed, the more I felt like I was being drawn into something I couldn't escape. The air seemed to grow thicker, heavier with each passing moment. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but the words caught in my throat as my eyes scanned the room. No reflections. None of the diners had any. Their faces, their bodies, their movements, there was no mirroring in the dark windows along the walls. The walls themselves, the ceiling, everything felt like it was folding in on me. I looked around in a panic. Why wasn't anyone else reacting? Why were they all so still? "Adam," I said, my voice barely a whisper now. "Do you see that?" He didn't answer at first. His gaze was fixed on his plate, the clinking of his utensils the only sound breaking the silence. "Adam," I said, louder this time, and his eyes finally met mine. "See what?" he asked, his voice low, almost too calm. "The reflections," I breathed. "None of them have reflections. Look around. Look at the glass, at the windows. There's something wrong." Adam smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Don't worry about it," he said, the same rehearsed tone in his voice. He leaned back in his chair, and for a brief moment, his eyes flickered with something darker, something I couldn't place. "You'll get used to it." But I couldn't get used to it. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. The sound seemed to fill the room, but no one reacted. No one moved. I was alone in my panic. "I need to leave," I whispered to myself, backing away from the table. I turned toward the door, but as I reached for the handle, I froze. There was no door. It was gone. The space where it had been was now solid brick, no cracks, no seams. Just a smooth, unyielding wall. I gasped, heart hammering in my chest. The walls around me seemed to close in, shifting, bending as if the room itself were alive. I turned to the windows, but they, too, were sealed shut, no way out. There was no escape. No exit. I spun around, my eyes wide with terror. Let me out. Let me out of here. I screamed, but the words were swallowed by the thick silence. I stumbled back toward Adam, my legs weak, my mind racing. What's happening? What is this place? He was no longer smiling. In fact, his face was completely blank, an expressionless mask of calm. The other diners began to turn their heads slowly, their eyes shifting toward me, their gazes hollow and empty. You can't leave, Adam said softly, almost apologetically. None of us can. A chill ran through me as I backed away, but the air grew colder still, suffocating. The shadows seemed to stretch, pulling the room apart at the seams, and the diners, no longer people, but shapes, reflections of something darker, moved toward me, their silent steps as inevitable as my fate. I turned, but there was no way to outrun the growing darkness. And in that moment, I realized with a horrifying clarity, I wasn't meant to leave. This place, the one with no name, had always been waiting for me. I tried to run, but my feet were frozen, as if the very ground beneath me had turned to stone. My breath quickened, and panic clawed at my chest as I glanced frantically around. The walls were closing in now, the edges of the room distorting like the edges of a nightmare. The diners, those hollow-eyed figures, moved slowly toward me, their expressions blank, their eyes never blinking, never wavering. I turned in every direction, searching for an escape that wasn't there. There was no door, no window, no way out. My chest tightened, and my heart began to thud painfully against my ribs as I backed into the wall. The oppressive silence was deafening, louder than any scream I could have possibly made. Let me go. I shouted, but my voice was swallowed whole by the empty space. Adam stood, now eerily calm, his figure impossibly still, and for the first time, his expression twisted into something darker. He stepped forward, and his smile widened, not in warmth, but in something far more sinister. You were never meant to leave, he said softly, almost regretfully. None of us were. I tried to scream, but the words caught in my throat. The air around me grew colder, more suffocating, and my vision began to blur, as if I were sinking into the very fabric of the room. The other figures reached out for me with long, slender hands, their movements slow but deliberate. I tried to pull away, but their grip was cold, unyielding. Their hands were like ice, burning into my skin as they dragged me deeper into the darkness. I could feel myself being consumed, the shadows folding over me like a blanket, until there was nothing left, just an empty, silent room. And then I was still. I was part of the room now, a reflection in a place where time and space had no meaning, where the lines between reality and nightmare blurred into nothingness. I had become one of them. Another figure in the stillness. And I knew with terrible certainty, there is no exit from here. Every year, without fail, I receive a love letter on Valentine's Day. At first, it seemed sweet, a romantic gesture from a secret admirer. The letters were always handwritten in a delicate script, expressing fondness but never revealing too much. No name, no return address, just words that made my heart flutter with the thrill of mystery. I couldn't help but smile at the thought that someone, somewhere, was thinking of me. But that was before things took a darker turn. It started innocently enough, with the usual note. The same tender words. But this year, it was different. This year, the letter was accompanied by something that chilled me to my core. Something I couldn't ignore. Something that made me question everything I thought I knew about myself, my home, and the safety I took for granted. And now, as I stood there, holding the letter in my shaking hands, I realized I had made a grave mistake in ever thinking this was just a harmless infatuation. The lines between affection and obsession had blurred, and now, there was no turning back. Because tonight, we were finally going to meet. I'd woken up that morning, groggy and disoriented, but there was something about the air that felt different. A strange tension, as if something, or someone, was waiting. At first, I couldn't place it. It was a typical Valentine's Day, after all. The streets outside were lined with couples holding hands, exchanging flowers and laughter. People everywhere seemed lost in their own little worlds of romance, but for some reason, I felt isolated, detached from it all. The moment I stepped into my apartment, though, I knew something was off. The smell of roses hit me as soon as I closed the door behind me. The air was thick with their perfume, but there were no flowers in sight. Only the faint scent lingered, heavy and intrusive, like it was seeping out of the walls themselves. I turned around, expecting to find a bouquet, but nothing was there. Confused, I glanced around, my eyes scanning the room. There were other signs, small, strange signs. The windows were shut, but the curtains fluttered slightly, as if someone had just closed them. The radio, which I always leave off, was playing softly. Some love song I didn't recognize, the kind of tune you'd hear in the background of a cheesy rom-com. Then, I noticed it. On my nightstand, a thick envelope lay among the usual clutter. It was neatly sealed, a deep red wax marking its edge. My heart raced. No name, no address, just the unmistakable handwriting I'd seen in every Valentine's letter before. I opened it carefully, half expecting to find something innocent. Perhaps another note, another empty expression of longing from someone I would never meet. But what I found made my breath catch in my throat. There, on the thick, cream-colored paper, was the same cursive writing I'd come to recognize over the years. The message was simple. Asterisk, dearest, this year, I wanted to show you just how much you mean to me. Your beauty, your grace, it hasn't gone unnoticed. I've watched you for so long, and tonight, my love, we finally meet. Asterisk. I froze, my eyes darting between the letter and the rest of the room. How could they know that I had been awake all night, unable to sleep? How could they know that I had been searching for any sign of them? But that wasn't the worst part. I reached into the envelope, hoping to find nothing else. But there was something more. Something that sent a cold chill down my spine. A Polaroid. I hesitated for a moment before flipping it over, almost afraid of what I would see. When I looked at the photo, I felt my heart skip a beat. It was me. Sleeping. I recognized the scene immediately. It was my room, my bed. The photo was taken at an angle that made it seem like someone had been standing in the doorway, watching me while I slept. The dim light from the street lamp outside barely illuminated my face, but there was no mistaking it, it was unmistakably me. My skin went pale, and I stumbled backward, dropping the photo to the floor. My body was frozen, but my mind raced. How could this be? How could anyone have been in my room without me knowing? Was it possible that I had simply forgotten? Was I dreaming? No. This was real. I bent down slowly to pick up the Polaroid, my hands shaking. As I held it up again, my eyes locked onto something in the background. I had missed it the first time, but now, it stood out like a warning. In the shadows near my closet, just barely visible, was a figure. A dark silhouette that blended into the room's gloom. My pulse quickened. Asterisk, had they been here? Watching me? Asterisk. I turned toward the window, half expecting to see someone standing there, looking in. But no one was there. The street outside was quiet, empty. I glanced back at the letter in my hand. I could feel the weight of it, pressing down on me, suffocating me. The words were too familiar now. Too close. Asterisk, tonight, we finally meet. Asterisk. I shoved the letter into the drawer, slamming it shut. My breath was ragged, my mind spinning. I needed to leave. I needed to get out of this place. But as I moved to the door, I heard something. A knock. A soft tap on the door, barely audible, but there. My body froze. I held my breath, straining to listen. The knock came again, quiet but deliberate. Asterisk, please don't answer it. Please don't answer the door, asterisk. I wanted to run, to hide, to lock myself in the bathroom and scream for help. But I was paralyzed, stuck in place, unable to make a sound. The knocking continued, slower this time, almost as if whoever was on the other side was waiting. Then, a voice. So soft, so calm, so familiar. Asterisk, it's me. Your admirer. Tonight, we finally meet. Asterisk. I stumbled back, my legs threatening to give way beneath me. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it would burst from my chest. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. But there was no denying it. Whoever was on the other side of that door, whoever had been in my room, watching me, they were here. The silence stretched between us, the weight of it almost unbearable. I knew they were still out there, waiting. But I couldn't move. I couldn't run. I was trapped. The knocking came again, harder this time, and I realized with a sinking feeling that it wasn't going to stop. They weren't going away. I reached for the door handle, my hand trembling. But before I could even turn it, the voice called out once more, low and soft, just behind me. Asterisk, don't worry, my love. I'm not going anywhere. Asterisk. I froze. I wasn't alone anymore. I spun around, my heart hammering in my chest, but there was no one in the room. The door was still shut, the apartment eerily quiet except for the sound of my own ragged breathing. Who said that? I backed away slowly, my eyes darting from corner to corner, searching for any sign of movement. The shadows seemed to shift, to stretch in unnatural ways, as if they were alive. I could feel their presence pressing in on me, suffocating me, making it impossible to breathe. I reached for my phone, hoping to call for help, but my hands were shaking too violently to hold it steady. I dropped it, the screen cracking when it hit the floor. I stared at it, feeling the weight of the silence crash over me like a wave. The knocking at the door started again, this time louder, more urgent. Each strike of the wood echoed through the room, vibrating in my bones. The voice that followed was almost like a whisper in my ear, too close, too real. Asterisk, I can feel your fear. It makes me want you more. Asterisk. I turned, my eyes searching the room once again, desperately hoping to see nothing, hoping that it was all in my head. But then, from the corner of my eye, I saw it, a shadow, shifting behind the curtain. Just a flicker, but it was enough. Enough to make my blood run cold. I couldn't stay here any longer. I rushed toward the window, my hands fumbling with the lock. My breath came in shallow gasps as I pulled the curtain back, half expecting to see someone standing right outside. But when I looked out, I saw nothing but the empty street below. For a moment, I thought I was safe. Then, I heard the faintest sound, footsteps, soft but unmistakable. They were coming closer, slow and deliberate, like they had all the time in the world. I turned around again, and there, standing in the doorway, was a figure. Tall, dark and cloaked in shadow, their face hidden by the darkness. I couldn't see their eyes, but I could feel them. Watching me. "It's time," the voice purred, as if it had been waiting for me to make the next move. The room seemed to close in on me. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. Without a second thought, I turned and ran for the door, but as I reached for the handle, the lights flickered. For a split second, I saw them, a pair of dark eyes staring at me through the crack in the door. I screamed. My body moved before my mind could catch up, slamming the door open and stumbling into the hallway. I heard the figure follow, their footsteps echoing behind me. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I raced down the stairs, barely managing to stay upright, my legs threatening to give out under me. Every fiber of my being screamed to run faster, to get away from whatever was chasing me. But when I reached the front door, I found it locked. No. I rattled the handle, panic rising, but it wouldn't budge. I was trapped. I turned, my breath coming in desperate gasps, and found myself face to face with them. My secret admirer. They were standing at the foot of the stairs now, no longer hidden in the shadows. Their face was obscured by a mask, dark and featureless, but the gleam in their eyes was unmistakable. I could see their breath in the cold air, slow and deliberate. "You're mine now," they whispered. Asterisk, forever. Asterisk. I opened my mouth to scream, but the words caught in my throat. No one would hear me. No one would save me. As they stepped closer, I realized with a sinking heart that this wasn't just some Valentine's Day fantasy anymore. It wasn't a secret crush. It was something darker. Something much worse. And there was no escaping it. I was always a sucker for trying new things, especially when it came to dating apps. It was the thrill of the unknown, the possibility of meeting someone exciting. My friends always joked about how I'd swipe through endless profiles, rarely sticking with anyone long enough to even start a conversation. But tonight, something felt different. I had been swiping aimlessly for hours, as usual, hoping to find someone who could break the monotony of my otherwise uneventful life. Then I saw it. The ad on my feed, "Swipe left, swipe for your life." The tagline intrigued me, but in that harmless, "oh, whatever," kind of way. At first, I thought it was just another gimmick. But curiosity got the best of me, and before I knew it, I had downloaded the app. The moment the app opened, something felt off. The interface was too sleek, too minimalist, like something out of a futuristic horror movie. It had a black background, with neon-colored icons that seemed to pulse in a rhythm that felt wrong. There was a small prompt that flashed on the screen, asterisk, "ready for your perfect match." Asterisk, my heart raced, my finger hovered over the "get started" button. It felt like I was stepping into something I couldn't quite understand, but I couldn't resist. I tapped it. The first thing that struck me was how fast it loaded. Usually, dating apps have that slight lag while the profiles appear, but this one didn't. It was instant. The profiles popped up one after another, faces flashing across the screen in rapid succession. At first, I thought nothing of it. But as I swiped, something started to unsettle me. The faces weren't right. Each one seemed just a little off. The smiles were too wide, the eyes too intense, the expressions frozen and unblinking. As I kept swiping, a deep sense of unease started to creep in. The faces didn't just look at me, they seemed to stare at me, their eyes following me as I swiped through their profiles. I tried to ignore it, blaming it on fatigue or maybe my overactive imagination. Then, I saw it. One profile caught my eye, Mind star. Or at least, it looked like me. My breath caught in my throat, and my thumb froze. The face staring back at me wasn't exactly mine, though. It had the same features, same nose, same chin, same lips, but the eyes, those eyes were wrong. They were black. Hollow. There was nothing behind them. Just an empty void. I tried to swipe left, but my thumb wouldn't move. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared at the screen. The face didn't move. It just watched me. The hairs on my neck stood up as I realized the app wasn't letting me swipe away from it. I tapped the screen, frantically trying to force the app to respond, but nothing happened. Then the screen flickered. The photo changed. It wasn't just a static image anymore. Now, it was a video. A distorted, grainy version of myself appeared on the screen, a muffled sound playing in the background. I could barely make out what it was saying, but then I heard it. It was my own voice, whispering my name. Help me, but it wasn't my voice. It was twisted. Like it was coming from deep inside a well. I was frozen in place. Panic flooded my chest as I tried to close the app. My fingers trembled as I repeatedly swiped back to the home screen, but it wouldn't leave. The app was stuck, like a nightmare that wouldn't let me wake up. The screen went black for a moment, and when it came back, my face was there again. But this time, something was different. The smile on my face wasn't mine. It was sharp, too wide, too unsettling, stretching unnaturally, like something was trying to force its way through. My blood turned to ice as I stared at the screen, unable to look away. Then a notification popped up, *, you've matched. *. I felt a sharp pain in my chest. Matched? With me? It didn't make sense. The face on the screen. It wasn't me anymore. Not the me I knew. The eyes were black, hollow. Those eyes. They were looking through me. Into me. I tried to close the app again, but it was no use. I pressed the uninstall option, but it was grayed out. The app wouldn't let me remove it. I tapped everything I could, but the buttons remained unresponsive. The glitching faces of the other profiles grew more distorted with every passing second. Each one began to twist and melt, becoming versions of me, older, decayed, with those same black eyes, staring at me like they knew me. Like they were waiting for me to join them. I backed away from the phone, my heart racing. But then it buzzed again. *, let's meet. Don't forget to swipe for your life. *. Suddenly, the sound of a knock at my door ripped through the silence. My breath caught in my throat. I looked at my phone again. My face was still there, staring back at me. But this time, it wasn't just a photo. A cold whisper followed the notification. The sound of the doorbell rang. I froze. It wasn't the doorbell I'd heard before. It wasn't the normal ringing of the bell. No, it was my voice. Soft, but twisted, like a distorted echo. *, open the door. *. I felt a wave of nausea crash over me. The app wouldn't leave, the doorbell kept ringing, and I felt the overwhelming urge to obey. But I couldn't move. My legs felt like they were made of stone. A cold sweat formed on my skin, my pulse racing as I heard my voice again, this time louder. *, let me in. *. I stood there, my heart in my throat, before I finally found the courage to move. My legs were shaking as I stumbled to the door, eyes glued to my phone. But when I opened it, there was no one there. Just the empty hallway stretching out into darkness. The air felt heavy, as if it were pressing in on me, suffocating me. I slammed the door shut and backed away, my breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. But then, the phone buzzed again. This time, there was no message. Just a single word, one that sent an icy chill through my entire body. Asterisk, you're next. Asterisk. I dropped the phone. The floor felt unsteady beneath me, my vision blurred. I had to get out. I had to leave. But when I reached for the door again, I heard it. The soft, slow creak of the app opening back up on its own. I turned to look at the screen one last time. And there it was. A face. Mine. But not mine. A twisted, decayed version of me with dead, black eyes, standing in the doorway. It smiled. And I realized then, with a sickening certainty, that I had already swiped right. And now, there was no going back. I backed away from the door, my breath shallow and erratic. The phone buzzed again, and my eyes couldn't help but fall to the screen. It was a new message, a chilling one, asterisk, come closer, let's meet. Asterisk. I could hear the faint sound of footsteps outside. Slow, deliberate, like someone was walking toward me. But there was no one on the other side of the door. I turned to run, but my feet felt heavy, like they were glued to the floor. I couldn't escape. The app had me, and somehow, I knew it had already won. I glanced at the phone again. The screen flickered. My face, the distorted, decayed version of it, was now moving, stepping closer, its hollow eyes still staring straight into my soul. A wide, unnerving grin spread across the screen, too wide to be human. It was mocking me. Asterisk, we're already together. Asterisk, the message read. Suddenly, the door rattled, as if something, or someone, was trying to break through. I could feel the walls closing in on me, my vision narrowing as panic set in. I tried to scream, but the sound caught in my throat, muffled, as if someone had clamped a hand over my mouth. The phone buzzed again, and I knew what I had to do. My thumb hovered over the screen, trembling. There was no way out. With a shaky breath, I tapped the only button that seemed to matter. The one that said swipe left. I don't know what happened next. The darkness swallowed me whole. When I woke up, the room was silent. The door was still shut, the phone on the floor beside me, shattered, its screen cracked beyond repair. I picked it up, trembling, to see if the nightmare had finally ended. But the screen was still on. And there, staring back at me through the cracks, was my face, twisted, decayed, and grinning. It was waiting. It always had been. And now, I was trapped. Forever swiping.